You know how some moments hit you so hard, they crack open everything you've been trying to hold together for years. That moment for me came with a splash of wine across my face. Red, cold, humiliating. But instead of breaking me, it woke something up. We were seated at Letty Jardin, Boston's crown jewel of luxury dining. Candlelight flickered against the crystal wine glasses, waiters floated silently like ghosts, and every detail screamed money. Old money. Harrison money. Matthew sat across from me, smiling that tight, polished smile he always wore when trying to impress his mother. Brooke. God, even her name sounded like a sneer. She was perched beside him, crimson lips curled in the kind of smirk only a woman born into wealth can master. Her eyes scanned the restaurant like she owned it, and maybe she did in spirit. I had barely touched my appetizer. My stomach churned. Not from the food, but from what I knew was coming. I can't pay for this dinner, Matthew, I said, keeping my voice low but steady. You know I've been helping Leah with her medical bills. I don't have $3,000 lying around. That was a partial truth. Leah's cancer treatments were real, yes. But over the past year, I had started quietly siphoning money into a separate account. An escape fund. Future fund. Each time Matthew pressured me to foot the bill for another lavish dinner or buy his custom suits, I added a little more to it. $1 closer to freedom. Always an excuse, Brooke chimed in, swirling her wine as if this was all entertainment. Matthew tells me your little decorating business has been doing well. Surely you can afford one special dinner for your mother-in-law. My knuckles whitened under the table. Her words were sugar-coated acid. Years of passive-aggressive digs wrapped in faux concern. I had smiled through so many of them. Not tonight. I said no. Matthew's hand froze midair, fingers wrapped tight around his glass stem. His jaw flexed, eyes narrowing. You're embarrassing me, he hissed. His voice was low and cold, like a blade slipping between ribs. I didn't flinch. That's when he did it. In one swift motion, he flung the wine in my face. The glass didn't break, but the illusion did. The cold splash hit my skin, soaked my blouse, ran down my neck like a stain I'd never scrub off. The restaurant hushed. I heard gasps, a fork clatter. Brooke laughed. Actually laughed. As if this were just rich people drama. Pay the bill, Matthew said, rising to his feet. Or this marriage ends right here. I stood up. Not in shock. Not in panic. In clarity. 15 years of silent erosion, financial control, emotional games. All of it had led to this moment. I pulled out my phone and opened the camera. Blick. A photo of my wine-soaked face. Then I hit record. What the hell are you doing? Matthew growled, lunging toward me. I took a step back. Creating evidence, I said, loud enough for others to hear. You want to explain why you just assaulted your wife because she wouldn't pay for your mother's dinner? Brooke's smirk disappeared. A manager appeared. Ma'am, would you like us to call the police? Matthew's face turned ghostly white. His chair clattered as it toppled behind him. Try me, I told him, still filming. That night, something in me cracked open. Not in pain, but in power. For the first time in a long time, I didn't feel afraid. Felt awake. And it was just the beginning. The wine had dried into a dull maroon stain on my blouse by the time I sat down at the police station. But I didn't care. I was done hiding stains on my clothes, on my marriage, on my life. Officer Andrea Taylor slid a cup of lukewarm coffee across the table. She had a no-nonsense look, the kind that said she'd seen it all. But her eyes were kind, and that was enough to make me speak. Call me Rebecca, I said. Not Mrs. Harrison. I'm going back to my maiden name. She nodded and jotted it down. Rebecca. You mentioned this wasn't the first incident. I looked out the precinct window. Dawn was breaking over Boston, all pinks and oranges. I hadn't slept, but I'd never felt more alive. No, I said. This was just the first time he left a mark someone could see. I told her about the years of financial control. About how I hadn't seen my best friend Claire in 3 years because Matthew convinced me she was trying to sabotage our marriage. About the endless guilt trips every time I earned a little success in my design business. And about the gifts that came with invisible strings. Luxury vacations, expensive dinners, extravagant purchases I was expected to cover to maintain the illusion. Officer Taylor's pen moved steadily across her notebook. I started documenting everything 2 years ago, I continued. Every transaction, every manipulation. I opened a separate account. Quiet deposits. Just enough to build a net without raising alarms. And the joint account, she asked. I smiled for the first time in hours. That was my insurance. Matthew used it for personal purchases he claimed were business expenses. The IRS is going to love those receipts. She leaned back impressed. So, the recording last night was the final push, I said. While he was busy yelling, my lawyer was filing paperwork I'd been preparing for months. Every red flag, every tax discrepancy. It's all been handed over to the authorities. She blinked. You've been planning this for a while. 2 years, 3 months and 12 days, I said. That's how long it took me to stop believing the shame was mine. My phone buzzed again. Another text from Matthew. I didn't even need to open it. I'd received dozens since the restaurant, ranging from threats to begging. I showed her the most recent one. Baby, please. We can work this out. Don't destroy everything we built. I stared at the screen. What we built was a prison. It just had very expensive walls. There was a knock at the door. A second officer entered. We have some visitors for Ms. Porter. One is Brooke Harrison's lawyer. The other. He hesitated. Catherine Harrison. Your sister-in-law. My heart stuttered. Matthew's sister. The only Harrison who'd ever shown me kindness. She had been cut off 5 years ago for challenging the family's toxic business culture. I hadn't spoken to her since Matthew cut her out of my life. Do you want to see them? Officer Taylor asked. I stood, straightened my stained blouse, and nodded. Yes. But first, there's something you need to know about the Harrison family. Something Kate and I might be the only ones brave or foolish enough to say out loud. Officer Taylor raised an eyebrow. Go on. The dinner last night, said. That wasn't just about wine. Brooke found out something I've known for months. Something that could bring their entire empire down. I walked toward that meeting room unsure if I was heading into a trap or toward the one person who could help me finish what I'd started. But I was done being afraid. Kate looked just like I remembered. Wild curls, no makeup, and that spark in her eyes the Harrisons had never managed to extinguish. When I walked into the interview room, she stood and did something that made my knees weak. She hugged me. I saw the video, she whispered. Someone posted it online. You, magnificent, brave woman. Blinked stunned. The lawyer? Yes. Sent him away for now. He's probably calling Brooke to warn her the black sheep's back, she said with a sharp smile. She sat down and pulled out a worn leather notebook. Its edges were frayed, its pages stuffed with notes and receipts. Everyone thinks I was cut off because I refused to join the family business, she said. That was part of it. But not the whole truth. She opened the notebook, revealing pages of financial records and handwritten notes. It's about your design business, Rebecca. And about other businesses owned by Harrison spouses over the past 20 years. I felt the room shift. What about them? They were never supposed to succeed. In fact, their failure was the goal. Kate's voice was calm, but her words were knives. Brooke and Matthew have been running a scheme for years. They marry strong, independent women. Then they isolate, manipulate, and financially drain them. They use their businesses to move money, launder funds, and when the businesses collapse, it looks like just another failed venture. Perfect cover. I gripped the edge of the table as the truth washed over me. The constant luxury expenses. The guilt about family obligations. The pressure to contribute. It was all calculated. Why? I asked even though I already knew. Power. Control. And money laundering, Kate said. The Harrison Foundation isn't just a charity. It's a front. They filtered dirty money through these failing businesses. Felt sick. But more than that, I felt furious. You did something they didn't expect, Kate said, eyes meeting mine. You kept records. You built a way out. That's why Brooke orchestrated the dinner. She found out about your escape plan. About Malcolm. The name hit me like ice water. Malcolm Jones. The accountant who had quietly helped me spot the irregularities. The one who guided me in collecting evidence. The one I trusted. They're trying to find every copy of your documentation, Kate said. Every backup. A knock interrupted us. Officer Taylor entered, looking grim. There's been an incident at the hospital, she said. My stomach dropped. Leah. Someone tried to access her room. Claimed to be family. Got aggressive when denied. Security intervened. Matthew, Kate and I said at the same time. We need to go, Kate said, already standing. Leah's not just your sister, she added. She's a witness. What are you talking about? Before her cancer diagnosis, Kate said, Leah worked as a bookkeeper for one of the Harrison subsidiaries. The pieces clicked. Her sudden illness. Timing. Matthew's obsession with her care. His insistence on covering her bills. Oh my God, I whispered. They've been watching her. Using her illness to control me. Kate nodded. Let's end this. But first we have to get to Leah. We raced from the station. My phone buzzed with a message from an unknown number. You should have paid. For words that made my blood run cold. But this time I wasn't alone. The hospital corridor felt like a tunnel with no end. Kate and I ran side by side, Officer Taylor just behind us. My wine-stained blouse clung to me, but I barely noticed the stares. All I could think about was Leah. When we rounded the corner to her floor, 2 security guards were stationed outside her room. A cart had been knocked over in the hallway. Medical supplies scattered across the floor. Panic crawled up my spine. Then I heard her voice. I told you to get out. I burst through the door and froze. Leah was sitting up in bed, weak but alert. Her headscarf was slightly crooked. Her eyes were blazing. Standing at the foot of her bed was Brooke Harrison, immaculate, smug, and still treating a hospital like it was her living room. But it was the third person in the room that knocked the wind out of me. Malcolm Jones. He wasn't the helpful, soft-spoken man I'd come to trust. He was ice-cold, standing beside Brooke like a soldier beside his general. Rebecca, Brooke said, her tone honeyed. How wonderful of you to join us. We were just catching up with your sister. Talking about loyalty. I rushed to Leah's side and grabbed her hand. It was cold. Her fingers tightened around mine. They tried to buy my silence, she said softly. Again. The first time. Yes. 3 years ago, she nodded. Right before I got sick. Malcolm cleared his throat. Miss Porter, maybe we should speak privately. There's been a misunderstanding. No, I cut him off. You mean the documents you helped me collect? Was that Brooke's plan all along? Get close, earn my trust, figure out what I knew. He didn't answer. Kate stepped into the room, arms crossed, Officer Taylor right behind her. You helped the Harrisons identify threats, then help neutralize them, Kate said. How many women have you done this to? How many lives have you helped destroy? Brooke's facade cracked. Still playing detective, Catherine? Did you tell Rebecca why you really started investigating the family? Kate shot back. About the business you and Matthew destroyed. The one I tried to build on my own. I told her everything, Kate said calmly. Including the fact that you made me your test run. Leah tugged my hand. Becca, she whispered. The notebook. Bedside drawer. I opened it, pulling out a journal. Just like Kate's, only older. Worn. Inside were records, notes, names. Leah had documented everything. 3 years ago, she began. I noticed patterns across the Harrison companies. Irregularities. Transfers. It wasn't just one business. It was all of them. I started recording what I found. And then you got sick, I murmured. She nodded. Small symptoms at first. Dizziness, fatigue. Then worse after each new prescription. Matthew insisted I see their family doctor, said it would all be covered. Every time I questioned it, I got sicker. Kate pulled a new page from Leah's chart, the one Brooke had left behind. It's a liability waiver, she said, voice tight. Backdated. With a forged signature. Officer Taylor began photographing everything. 2 more officers arrived and started questioning hospital staff. Leah's original doctor. Dr. Jones asked, "Do you remember their name?" "Dr. Anjali Patel," Leah said weakly. She tried to warn me, but Matthew was there. I didn't want to ruin Rebecca's wedding. I blinked back tears. My husband had poisoned my sister, and I hadn't seen it. Not until now. "We need to find Dr. Patel," Kate said. "She may have early records proving Leah was healthy before their doctor took over." "I'm already on it," Officer Taylor replied. But then one of the officers spoke up. "We caught them on the hospital security cameras." Brooke and Malcolm left in a black SUV heading east. "The lake house," I said suddenly. Everyone turned to me. "They keep sensitive records there," I explained. "Matthew once told me. Every family needs a vault." Leah tried to speak but broke into a violent coughing fit. Dr. Jones moved quickly, checking her vitals. "We need to neutralize these meds immediately," she said. "Some of these combinations. They weren't meant to treat anything. They were meant to mimic cancer symptoms." I felt the room sway. Leah reached for me again. "The painting," she whispered. "What painting?" "The one I gave you on your wedding day. The lighthouse. There's something hidden inside it. Something I never told anyone." Then my phone buzzed. A message from Matthew. With a photo. It was a picture of my home office. The wall where Leah's lighthouse painting used to hang. Me. Just a nail. And 4 words. "Come alone. 1 hour. Time to finish this. Doctor." Jones's voice faded into the background as I stared at the photo on my phone. The painting was gone. The message was clear. Matthew knew. And now he was calling me out. "I'll go," I said. "But not alone." Officer Taylor frowned. "It's too dangerous." "No," I said. "He expects me to come alone. And I will. But I won't be unprepared." I stepped into the hallway and dialed a number I hadn't used in 3 years. It rang twice. "Rebecca," the voice on the other end said. "Is that really you?" "Claire," I said, choking back emotion. "You were right about Matthew. I need your help." She didn't hesitate. "You still want the FBI's Financial Crimes Division on speed dial?" 20 minutes later I was in my car driving to the lake house. Unmarked vehicles followed at a discreet distance, Claire's team coordinating the operation with local law enforcement. As the trees thickened around the private road, I thought back to the drawer I'd opened the night before in Brooke's antique desk. Inside were papers that explained everything. Why they targeted me, how they operated, and where the real money had gone. Matthew thought he held the power. He forgot who he married. When I pulled into the gravel driveway, the sun had nearly set. The lake shimmered behind the house, casting long shadows. Matthew opened the front door before I could knock. His face was pale, his shirt unbuttoned, hair messy. Scotch lingered in the air, the expensive kind his father used to drink. "Where is it?" he barked. "The painting." I stepped inside. Brooke was seated in her usual chair, expressionless. Malcolm stood by the window, fidgeting. The painting leaned against the fireplace. "Funny," I said, walking past them. "You always called Leah's work amateur. Never noticed the reflection in the water, did you? She painted 2 lighthouses. One real, one distorted. Almost like 2 versions of the same truth." Brooke stood. "Don't be clever, Rebecca. Richard saw it," I said, staring directly at her. "That's why you killed him, isn't it?" The room froze. Brooke's face hardened. "She told you." "No," I said. "You just did." Brooke's lips curled. "She won't survive this. Neither will your reputation." I smiled faintly. You're right. She won't be doing it alone anymore. Matthew stepped forward. You don't know what you're doing. I turned to him. Oh, I know exactly what I'm doing. Did you think meeting me at that gala was a coincidence? You were hunting for another asset. But I was already watching you. He blinked confused. What? My father was a forensic accountant. He was investigating your family before his accident. I took over where he left off. You married your biggest threat. I walked to Brooke's chair and felt behind it, until I found the latch Richard had shown my father. The wall clicked open. Inside were files, dozens of them. Original records. Deep. Hidden bank accounts. You forgot, Brooke, I said. Richard didn't keep everything at the office. He hid it right under your nose. That's when the house lit up in red and blue. Sirens. A megaphone blared. FBI. The house is surrounded. Malcolm ran. Agents tackled him at the door. Matthew lunged for the painting, but I grabbed it first and slammed it across his chest, knocking him down. He stared up at me, stunned, not by the impact but by the realization. He had lost. As agents cuffed Brooke, she turned to me. You remind me of someone, she said softly. Who? Me. Before I chose power over justice. Before I became what they made me. I stared at her. Then why didn't you stop it? I couldn't, she said. But maybe you can. She glanced at Kate, then added, check the foundations. It sounded cryptic, but the agents quickly understood. Hidden rooms, vaults, buried documents going back decades. Later that night, in the study at the main house, we opened a safe behind a painting Brooke had pointed out. Inside was a single letter. To the woman who ends this. It was dated April 15, 1990. In it, Brooke admitted everything. That she was once a victim, an interior designer stripped of her business by the first Harrison patriarch. That she had become the abuser. That she had documented everything. And that she'd secretly created a legal mechanism to restore what was stolen. 3 months later, the Harrison Foundation was reborn. This time as the Eyes Open Foundation for Women's Economic Justice. Every hidden vault, every asset, every deed, restored and redirected. Leah, now in remission thanks to proper care, stood beside me at the grand opening. Kate, Claire, and dozens of survivors had come not just to receive support, but to lead it. Inside my new office, where Brooke's desk once sat, Leah's painting of the lighthouse hung proudly. The reflection beneath the water now meant something else. A truth revealed. A legacy undone. A new beginning. Because sometimes, the glass of wine meant to humiliate you is the one that finally sets you free. And sometimes, the most dangerous people aren't the ones who raise their voices, but the ones who quietly build the courage to rise.